for the market collapse today. This and other perfectly normal, perfectly sane societal things that happen for a species like us. Several times each generation, we go through something like this. The observations that we're making in and around our businesses, in and around our relationships, and how we suggest that you prepare for the market collapse because it's coming. All the signs point to it. Inhale and exhale. Every economy has it. And then this lovely little book, book number 15 of 365, book number 15 for the year. We're going to cover that very quickly. In the context, I read this book today and it made me realize, wow, these trends, have been predicted for over 50 years now, 50 years, but also, and more, but also that these things are coming inevitably and how you and I can prepare. Let's talk about it. I was in a conversation today with our team member, Amber, who runs the show over at Spark Sites. And we've noticed a trend. There has been a cluster of companies, clients that have had to cancel their services with us. Now, we went through December and we gained and acquired a bunch of new clients for social media, for marketing, for a variety of things. But a lot of our small business owners, who are usually 1 to 3 employees, have called to cancel their services. But it's been a clustered and it's been more than normal. It's an outlier in terms of sheer quantities and sheer numbers. And so we're noticing this. And what can you imagine is the number one reason? Nearly all of them are closing their businesses. Hey, we dissolved this company. Hey, we're going out of business. Hey, we just can't afford it anymore. Now, mind you, our monthly hosting service is only $25 a month. And that includes like services. And if someone cannot afford that, the times are tight. We are just not getting any new clients. We're having to close down the company. This was a lot of the commentary that we've been getting. Now, mind you, if you then look at the trend for the website company, and mind you, our website company has about 200, give or take, clients out under management. But we saw this large cluster of clients cancel. Then we actually looked at the entire year and said, okay, for 2025, what was our net gain, net loss? We actually had a net loss of clients, believe it or not, which is one of the first times in a long time. And if you look at some of the number one reasons, the top reasons that people gave when they were leaving us, literally 90+% of anyone who left us last year said, I'm concerned about tariffs, or I'm closing my company, or I'm having to get rid of this company, or we're cutting expenses because we're afraid of what's going on in the economy. Since about January, since tariffs kicked in, now quite often clients will cite tariffs and say, like, it's just too expensive right now. So they're getting rid of their website. And by getting rid of, oftentimes, if they're migrating to a cheaper service like GoDaddy or Wix or something like this, usually we'll migrate it for them. But nearly all of the clients that left us last year were closing business. And then in the last, I want to say 3 weeks, we've seen a cluster of clients who called and said, listen, we've had one client who's in the middle of a website build and called us and said, hey, listen, I just can't afford this right now. I'm sorry I started it. I'm not asking for any money back. Could we just pause this project for now? I had another person who was looking at buying about $2,000 worth of SEO services, and they were totally queued up and said, listen, we've got to wait till at least March, and I'm hoping the economy turns around before now and then. I have not seen this since the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we had similar numbers. Now, mind you, by the end of the pandemic, our business, the website company, actually grew because a lot of companies, people weren't walking into their storefront and needed websites. And we were serving those websites. We were building a bunch of e-commerce for restaurants and really helping people come online. But this sort of talk, the uncertainty of the future, led into a major market collapse. And how did we respond back then? Well, back then, me and my partner, Marissa, we actually looked at all of our resources and said, we need to put some money aside to buy up some stocks. So we waited until the market, we put money aside when clients started talking like this. And then when the market tanked, we then looked at the stock purchases that we had planned. We bought them. And then we actually saw a major uptick between that and the recovery. We took advantage of that. And that was the first time that we not only observed the trend, but we took action on the trend. Tony Robbins has been wildly popular in making sure that he says the number one skill out there to have is to spot trends. But the second skill you absolutely need is to act on the trends you're spotting. The executive function of being able to take action. And in the last economic collapse, we did this on two sides. We did this from the stock purchase perspective, but we also did this in terms of getting ahead on our business. We preemptively started cutting expenses, but then we started taking a few actions back then for our own company that allowed us to thrive by the end of the pandemic. Yeah, we went through a tough time like everyone, but we were able to thrive because we had a good plan in place. And I'm going to share that with you in today's show. So what does this lead me to in today's book reading? Well, as you know, I'm on a mission to read a book a day and get back into my book reading. And this particular book, yes, I have read this book so much, and it is so old that I have worn off the cover. And you can see I've got my notes from today in it. This book predicted so much. I'm going to give you the title of this book. It is powerful, but I want to give you a few quick concepts here that you absolutely have to hear. This book was written in 1970. And it was a futurist book, and I'm going to give you the title in a second. But what this person called out, the author called this out. It says the rate at which man has been storing up useful knowledge about himself and the universe has been spiraling upward for 10,000 years. This section is called Knowledge is Fuel, and it predicts in 1970 that by the turn of the millennia, by the year 2000 and beyond, we would be an information-based society. That's a profound prediction in this book. And I'm only pointing out what this person predicted in this book so that you pick it up, because he tells you what is coming next. This is the power of reading. I'm telling you, leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. And this book is predicting what's going to happen in the next 20 years. It talks about the post-human world. Once robots and computers, and remind you, computers only came online around the 50s and were only popular by the 80s. This guy wrote this book in the 70s and predicted the information age, but he also predicted this. You got to hear this. He predicted the FAD machine. Because of the information age, how quickly fads would accelerate. He calls out this. He says in 1966, some 7,000 new products turned up in American supermarkets. Fully 55% of all of those items were new within the last year. By the very next year, in 1967, over 9,500 of the items in the consumer packaged goods field alone were new within the last year. And he talks about how before this, products were not such a fad. They didn't turn over so quickly. But from about 1966, he shows the compounding and then predicts that once we hit the information age, how this number will accelerate. Now, you and I both know, yes, we're very aware that the average American probably is fed, I think it's over 11,000 ads a day, whether or not they realize it. Whether it's from Spotify, your radio station, the TV, every time you're on the internet, it was tallied up within the last few years, and they estimated that you are hit with about 11,000 marketing impressions a day. So he predicted the information age. He predicted the FAD machine, and then he said how this will affect our children. He then goes on to say that training for disaffiliation and dissociation begins early. In public schools, the Ford Foundation found that it is not unusual for city schools to have turned over at least half of their student body in one school year. He wrote this in 1970. And we know the state and of the situation of our schools today. We know that it's abysmal. And he said that this negatively affects the students. Not only can this rate have a negative effect on the students, it also has a negative effect on teachers. It goes on to say that this mobility and turnover of student body is as severe on the teachers as on the children themselves, for the teachers are thereby robbed of a good bit of the feeling of achievement of the noble profession of teaching in child development. And we see the full culmination of this today. Most teachers are lackadaisical. They're nihilistic as the children. They throw their hands up and say there's no funding, and I agree with that. It is a massive dilemma. And now in our state, our current governor is talking about removing all property taxes, which fund public schools. So they're basically putting a nail in the coffin on the noble art of teaching the noble role it has in a civil society. And this book called this out in 1970, before we had any sort of the pace of acceleration. A lot of this book talks about the pace of acceleration. But here's the thing, it's all not doom and gloom. The author of this book, and I'll give you the title in a second, the author of this book left a clue on how to survive what's coming next. And then I'll give you the title of the book that is book number 15 for me for the year. And you guys know I love to read. I have reading methods, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But here, the author says this. You got to hear this. The author says, to survive the acceleration of acceleration, to survive the future shock, to avert what we have termed future shock, the individual must become infinitely adaptable and capable more than ever before. The individual must search out totally new ways to anchor themselves, for all of the old roots, religion, nationalism, community, neighborhood, family, profession, all are now shaking under the hurricane impact of the acceleration of acceleration. Now, this is a powerful book. And again, this is so profound that this was written in 1970, and then there was an edition every year for the subsequent 20 years. The title of this book, which I have read so much that I've worn off this, and let me tell you where I got this book. My belated grandmother, Granny, owned a 10-acre farm in Vero Beach, Florida. And upon her passing, or the last time I visited with her, we were playing Uno in a room that I knew the smell of so well. And it smelled like orange, citrus, and pine. And I was looking at her bookshelf, and I saw this title, Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. And I'll post that here, Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. See that right there? And I was so impressed that my grandmother, at the time pushing 80, 85, I don't even know, facing her last year of being alive, was reading a book on futurism. You see, my grandmother was a hardened old sod scrapper from freaking Kansas, but ended up living in Florida for the last decades of her life. She was hard. By hard, I mean she was tough as nails. There's a photo of her with a whip and a gun because all the grandchildren were out back being homeschooled one day, and a pack of wild dogs came in, and she went out with a bullwhip and a gun and chased them away. That was the type of person Granny was. And even at 85, whenever I'd play a double reverse or a pick four in Uno, she would say, elder abuse. And she would read profound books like Future Shock. She was relentless as a grandmother. And what I want to leave for you with this book and my advice on surviving the market collapse is this. First off, leaders or readers, if you are going to survive, you have to be consuming quality material. Yes, you can listen to the audiobook. No, you cannot pick this up on short form TikToks or Reels. That is just not the way this will go down. But if you are going to have strategies, and I'll share the strategies we use to survive the market collapse from the pandemic, and what we're doing right now in preparation because of what we've heard from our clients, which if you caught the earlier part of the show, I was saying that nearly a huge cluster of our clients have canceled their services in the last 3 weeks. They're panicking because of they're either closing their companies or they're panicking because they're already feeling the economic squeeze. The market collapse is coming. But I randomly picked up Future Shock and started reading it. And then I read that section on adaptability. To survive, we must become infinitely adaptable and more capable than ever before to root ourselves, because religion, nationality, community, family, and profession will no longer root us. These things will no longer root us. As Alvin Toffler wrote in this book, here's my takeaway. Here's my predictions, and you're hearing it first. And I'm telling you this. Number one prediction, the market is going to completely collapse. And you'll see this in home prices. I fully believe this. You will not see interest rates tank, not anytime soon, but you will see home prices tank. No, you will not see rent fall. I've owned several properties. I'm now down to one property with 4 different renters. But rents aren't going anywhere. I've been an investor for a long time. The market's going to collapse. Buckle up. Number two fact you need to know. That's my number one prediction. The fact that this is based on is a huge cluster of our clients. They've failed their payments, or their businesses have closed, or they're getting ahead of all of their expenses for the market collapse. And we've seen a huge cluster in the last 3 or 4 weeks of our clients doing that. And though we've gotten a lot of new clients, different clients from a different niche that came through in December, we're seeing this. So my first prediction is the market's going to collapse. My second prediction is this. For those who prepare and do the strategies that I'm about to share, that we did in the pandemic and that we're doing right now to save our business, if you do the strategies, you will come out wealthier. Whether it's in your business, whether it's in your personal wealth, you will come out wealthier because cycles are predictable. These cycles have been happening since the start of this country and earlier than that. We'll talk about that in a quick second. So the second prediction is, if you do the strategies, you will thrive. The third prediction is, if you do not do the strategies, you will either close your business or you will be wrecked financially. I'm calling it now. The fourth prediction is, the US dollar will not save us. We're long past that. Our reputation on the international field, on the global field, our reputation is shot. The US dollar will not save us. And that leans into some of the strategies I'm about to share. So my prediction, those are my 4 predictions. Oh, and my final prediction is this. Coaches and trainers will be more in demand. Quality coaches and trainers. Coaches and trainers who are seasoned. I've been doing personal development coaching, goal coaching, performance coaching, corporate training. I've been doing this since 2007. I've been coaching Fortune 500 companies on sales tactics, but now I do a lot of performance coaching and different stuff like that for people who are high performers, and goal coaching so that people stay positive. That's currently what I'm doing. And what I have found when I started coaching, I used to tell my mentor at the time, I said, hey, when economics are tough, like people quit spending. He said, oh no. When economic times hit hard, businesses will pay more for answers. Businesses will pay more for pathways. Individuals will pay more for roadmaps during uncertain times. So my 5th prediction is that for those who are quality coaches and trainers for whatever niche, for whatever skill, if you can provide a tried and true and proven roadmap, you can also thrive. Let me tell you the quick strategies that we deployed in the pandemic that we're deploying today that will help us come out on top from the next market collapse. In the last market collapse, the first thing you have to do is recognize the trend. Do not hide your head in the sand. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your economics are. You cannot ignore all the signs that have come time and again, from bond prices to the stock market indicators, which we follow, to home prices, to the average conversation on the street, the average price at the gas station, the average price in the grocery store. These are indications that have happened time and again and have preceded a market collapse. And I won't go through all of them, but those are the top ones that we watch. So the first thing you need to do is see the trend and accept it. Don't hope it doesn't collapse. There is no hoping that will prevent the market to collapse. In fact, in past times, a lot of presidents of the United States have waged war. The fear of war caused the collapse. The waging of the war over time repaired us from the collapse. I do not believe in that cycle, but it has happened. If I'm an opportunist, I need to pay attention that that's probably what's going to happen now. I do not wish for that. I am an anti-war person. I do not mind protecting ourselves, and I am very much in support of our troops. But I do not believe that the manipulation of the masses and taking us to war is a good thing, but I do believe it's nearly inevitable because it has been the play, especially of the conservative party. Nearly every time we faced economic concern, we went into a theater of war, and it primed our economy. I don't like it, but it's coming. So the first thing is to recognize the trend and accept it. And accept it and make your position like I just did. Make your position known, but then get on with the acceptance. And if you get on with the acceptance, the second thing you need to do is this. This is the most important one. If this is the only thing you catch, how you survive a total market collapse when you see the signs on the wall and it's coming towards you, the first thing you need to do is build lines of communication with your audience. What? Excuse me. Lines of communication with your audience. You need to connect with your potential clients. You need to connect with your friends. You need to pick up the phone and call your network and just say, hey, how you doing? No, I'm checking in on you. You need to re-warm up your cold contacts, because the currency during market collapse is relationship. Being a problem solver. Every time the market collapses, people bond together. And the people best positioned to connect to others. Hey, I need a roofer who's affordable. Let me connect you with my guy. Or, hey, I just need some advice. You're always reaching out to me. I need to talk. You need to be the voice of confidence in people's lives. You need to be the voice. In fact, this show started. The Spark Show, we're on episode 372. This show started episode 1 in the middle of the pandemic, because I saw that it was important to be a line of communication in an emergency. You know, in the state of Florida, when a hurricane hits, the number one thing people are trying to get up is their cell phone. That's why we have walkie-talkies between me and my family, including my family up in North Carolina. We can get on a walkie-talkie as soon as the hurricane's passed and talk about the resources we need. Communication. So number 1 is viewing the trend. Number 2 is build your lines of communication right now. Reach out to your network. Call your friends. Check in on them. See how they're doing. Making sure they're all right. No, I'm just checking on you. I know things are kind of scary out there, but how are you doing? How's business? How's the family? I'm just checking in on you. Do not have an ask. Do not ask them for anything. Do not sell anything. Just be there for them. That's the second thing. The third thing is to position your services or offerings ahead of time. Whether you do recession pricing, whether your message is about protect yourself from the coming market collapse, whether it just acknowledges it somehow, or whether it says, hey, listen, we're going to plow on through this. If you're a coach or a trainer, you're going to say, hey, a roadmap for uncertain times. You need to start prepping your messaging right now. But it only works if your lines of communication are up and running ahead of time. So the first thing, recognize the trend. The second thing, re-warm up all of your contacts, call them, check in on them, call your leads, call your friends, do webinars, become a place where people come together. Restart up the community coffees locally. Start a community group. Connect with people. That's the second one. The third is prepare your messaging. Prepare your messaging, and it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Maybe it's all optimism. That's fine, but you need to be conscientious about it and prepare for it. The fourth thing, cut your expenses now. Cut your unnecessary expenses right now. I am telling you this right now, not just because I want you to be fearful, but I want you to have cash on the side for the fifth item. The fourth step, cut your expenses right now. Because I want you to have, if it's pennies, if it's dollars, if it's tens of dollars, if it's hundreds of dollars, you need cash, because the stock market and the real estate market is about to be on discount. How many cycles of market recession have we been through? And you said, if only I had an extra $1,000 to buy up that stock or to buy up that crypto. I wish I would have bought Bitcoin when someone was telling me about it at 20,000. Well, it's pulled back to 90,000. Yeah, we've been talking about crypto since it was $800. And every time it pulls back, people say, see? And we said, don't you wish you had $1,000 to put into it now? Because it's taking off, right? And this is not financial advice from that regard. It's preparation advice. I think you should, number 4, cut expenses now, because I want you to, 5, put cash on the side to buy things on discount. When the market is at its worst, what is the quote that Warren Buffett used to say? Be greedy when there's blood in the streets. Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. You have to put cash to the side right now. So step 4, cut your expenses judiciously, so that number 5, you wait. And wait till it absolutely hurts. If you cut your expenses now, when the market recedes, you'll be at about a management mode. You won't have to be panicked for too much. But my hope is between now and then you use those extra expenses in a savings account so that you buy things on discount. I am telling you, we were able to put $5,000 to the side because this is what we did as the pandemic was getting to its worst. We cut our expenses immediately. We already had these lines of communications going. We already had this going. And every extra expense we had cut all the way back to the nub. And we put that money away and it ended up being about $5,000. We bought 20 different stocks at $100 each. It went to 20 grand by the end of the recovery. We weren't brilliant. In fact, over half of the stocks actually collapsed and failed. Some did okay, but 5 started rocking and they made back more 20 grand. So we netted about 15 grand off of that. You can do the same thing if you, number one, recognize and accept the trend, even if you disagree with it. You can disagree with it all you want, but you have to recognize the signs. You have to read history, and you have to go, okay, it's happening. Number two, you need to get your line of communication going. Start a webinar, start a coffee club, do a run club, but be a source of community for people in your area. You could do it digitally, or you could do it publicly. You could do it with paid ads, whatever it is. Become a line of communication for your people. Step 3, you need to start getting your messaging correct so that you're ready when the market collapses. Step 4, cut your expenses back to the nub so that you, step 5, wait for the market to get absolutely horrible. When it does, you have your messaging ready. Roll out your services, be ready. Watch for your competitors who might be failing and try to, with the resources you put to the side, try to buy a competitor. We have a web design company. When other web design companies are failing, we're going to buy up their portfolios. We're going to try. But we will definitely have the cash on the side to invest in stocks. And I'm definitely going to be looking for real estate, though real estate prices are going to go absolutely trash. So here's what I'm doing. I have a little bit of equity. I just had to refinance this house. My wife and I, we settled our divorce finally. And so we refinanced our houses. I still have a little bit of equity. I'm going to go get a line of credit. And I'm going to pull out that cash. And here's that. Those are the tips. Here's the other things going on that I think you need to be aware of. I've been in crypto since Bitcoin was $800. And I've watched and I've sold it, right? And I've bought back in and I've sold it and I've bought back in. I wish I just held the whole time. But one thing I know is this: the US dollar is losing all credibility, right? Whatever your politics are, you have to admit that the world is reacting to us, and not great. They're starting to actually trade petro rubles and petro yuan, Chinese yuan. It used to be the petrodollar. And that's what a lot of the administration was hoping with Venezuela, but it's not happening. The rest of the world is not having it. And again, I don't care what your politics are, but the rest of the world is reacting in a way that we haven't seen in previous administrations. And I believe that the power of the US dollar is going to accelerate in its decline. All of my investment friends, I got investment friends in Colombia, I've got investment friends around the world. We all are seeing the same signs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my line of credit, which is in US dollars. I'm going to take my line of credit, I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm going to put it in alternate currencies. I haven't decided which ones, but my options are anything but the US dollar. That's not declining. So you'll see me put it in crypto. You'll see me put it in pounds. You'll see me put it in Japanese yen. I'll put it somewhere else, and I will wait for it there. And then when home prices and stock prices tank, I'll buy back in. How do you prepare for the market collapse? Now, those are pragmatic monetary things, but if you didn't catch this earlier, I'm going to say this one final time. Thanks, Jim, for the likes. I appreciate it. I'm going to say this one last time for you, though. You have to hear this. The top 2 things. Yes, there's some financial tactics you need to get into alignment right now. But the top 2 things are, number 1, accept the trend. Don't fight it. Don't Pollyanna it. We can be optimistic, meaning we're going to survive and do well individually, but we have to be realistic in that people are going to suffer along the way. And if we can mitigate suffering, we will. So number 1 is accepting the trend. All the signs. And if you weren't here, Jim and Carolyn and whoever's watching right now, if you weren't watching earlier, what I said was we've had clusters of clients just quitting because they're quitting our services because their businesses are closing, or they're fearful about what the market collapse coming. And like it's accelerated. In the last 3 weeks, we've seen our largest chunk of clients leave us than having the entire last 18 months. But over the last year, we've seen a net decline since January. Since January happened, basically February on, we've seen less and less faith in the marketplace. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I appreciate it. And so, having seen all that, the top two things are recognizing and accepting the trend, regardless of your politics, regardless of your belief systems. You can be positive and optimistic about your own future. Awesome. But as it comes to the trend, don't deny it. And the second thing, and hear me on this, develop your lines of communication with your people right now. Rewarm up your leads, call your network, ask them how they're doing, start a blog, start a podcast, whatever it is, have a way, start a newsletter, a subreddit. I don't care. Have a way to communicate with your network, with your potential clients, so that when the market does collapse, they know who to go to. They know whose voice is out there in confidence. And here's the thing, speak in confidence. When the market does collapse, don't be down in the mouth and fearful. Be confident. We can survive this. We're going to get through. We just got to get through together. People are looking for a roadmap and looking for certainty. So if you're a business coach, if you're a consultant, this is the perfect time for you to thrive. But more than anything, for the average business person as well, you are a voice of confidence. You are a steady voice. You are a kind word. You are the one who can make people, help people carry through, and they will always remember that. So please pick up, not my book, no affiliate links. I believe in this book, Future Shock. This is book number 15 for the year. Leaders or readers, go read this book. It predicted all of this to the T. As I read, go back and watch the replay. I read sections from this that absolutely predicted, from the knowledge information age to the decline of our public education system, to the throwaway society and the FAD machine, right down to society will be looking for those who can help them feel rooted in a world where they're having to be so adaptable that there is no consistency. And you can be that person. Why am I talking about any of this? Because I don't believe you should go out and find what the world needs. I believe you should go out and find what makes you alive, because what the world needs is people who are alive. Because right now, there are so many evil forces that want to suck your will to live, suck your inspiration, suck your shine, your brightness, and take that from you so that you just trudge along. But we don't need any more of that. I say all that to say this: no matter what you do today, remember the mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting